Hey there, future game dev legends. Welcome back to Ranger Realm Studios. I'm Josh, and today we're diving into a topic that often gets overlooked when starting with Unreal Engine: the first time setup and optimization of Unreal Engine 5. In the last video, we created our first project. Now we will make sure to set up the engine properly so it's optimized for our needs. Let's get right into it. Go ahead and open the project we created last time. If you haven't seen the video, we created our first project and kept all of the default settings for the primary programming language, the target platform, quality presets, starter content, as well as ray tracing. All these settings can be changed from within the engine later on as well. Once your project is open, you'll want to make sure it's running smoothly. That's where the optimization piece comes in. On the right hand side, towards the top, you should be able to see a little gear with settings next to it. Go ahead and click on it and a drop down menu will appear. Here you have several different options that you can change, but for now we're going to focus on the scalability section. Go ahead and move over the engine scalability settings. Here you can change several different settings that can improve your performance in the editor while you're working on your project. This can come in handy once you start having a lot of assets in your level. You can adjust these settings individually or as a group. Personally, I like to keep everything at default until I notice a drop in performance, which is when I start to lower certain settings. The first one I lower is usually going to be the view distance, reflections, and foliage. As things continue to build up in the level, I will then adjust further. I've also noticed that the quality between epic and cinematic isn't worth it, as the quality barely improves, but the computer ends up being under a much higher workload. So go ahead and play around with these settings. So just alone looking at the difference between post-processing, epic, and low, you can see the lighting change in the background. Global illumination changes just a little bit of the shadows along the edge. Then your reflections, there's not really any in here. Your textures is a big thing too. You can see how the lines start getting a lot more blurry when you change it to low. Special effects, we don't have any in there right now. Foliage, not really any. And then shading. So overall, if you just click up here and change the settings between epic, and you see how it's like slightly changing the shadows, then the quality of your map is changing completely up. So if you do notice some hang up in the quality, just go through here and figure out what you can change to make sure you have a smooth experience while you're working. Next, you can change the material quality level. This can also tremendously enhance performance if you're using high quality textures and materials. If you've played high-end video games, you know that majority of their file size nowadays comes from using 4K textures or bigger. And all that memory usage can really slow down your performance when working in a large scene with a lot of different models. So if you do notice things begin to stutter around, don't be afraid to turn down the material quality level, or just go back into your scalability settings and then just change whatever you need to change in here, make it work better. Next, we'll go take a look at our plugins. While this is not necessarily mandatory, I like going through and disabling anything that I don't need, because when building test builds of your projects, the engine usually includes most things that you have in the editor, even if they're not being used in the game itself, which results in big files that you don't really need. So I like to play it safe and get rid of anything that I don't need for my current project. Plus, you can always re-enable it if you decide that you need certain plugins. So go up top left, click on edit, and then at the very bottom, plugins. Your number might be different, but mine says that I have 537 plugins installed, which several of them are default Epic Games plugins, so be careful about which ones you do disable. For the project we'll be working on in this tutorial series, we won't be needing any of the mobile plugins, as it will be a PC game in the end. Go down and disable all of the plugins related to mobile devices, starting with Android. There's 3 plugins enabled. We don't need these. Plugins required by online subsystem Google Play. Would you like to disable it as well? Yes, we do, because we do not need Google Play either. And there, it already disabled the next one for us. And we're going to scroll down the list, see what else we got going for mobile. And down here, mobile. We still have another 2 plugins in here. We don't need these as well, so take them out. And then after you enable or disable any of the plugins, the engine will always ask you to restart it so it can actually take effect. So go ahead and restart your engine once you're done, and then it should open right back up into the plugin editor. But we are done. That's all we wanted to disable for now. It's just the mobile plugins, because we won't be needing those. It is important to note that there is no one-size-fits-all solution for optimizing your engine. The best settings for you will depend on your specific project and the hardware configuration that you're working with. However, the settings we talked about can be a good starting point for improving your overall performance. Also keep in mind that if you are stuck, don't be afraid to ask for help by leaving a comment on this video or from the Unreal Engine community. There's a lot of experienced users out there who are very willing to help. Now let's go ahead and close our plugins. Lastly, there are some quality of life settings that can make your UE5 experience smoother. These are not mandatory, but they're definitely useful. So first off, we're going to be talking about autosave. Autosave is a feature that automatically saves your project at regular intervals. This can help you avoid losing work if your project crashes or your computer loses power. So to set up autosave, go back up to Edit. Click on Editor Preference. Under General, you're gonna find Loading and Saving. Or you could simply type into the search bar while you're in all settings and type in Autosave, and it will bring you exactly where we just were. General, Loading and Saving, and then here it has all of your autosave features. Once you're here, enable the autosave option if it isn't already. You can then specify the frequency at which you want your project to be saved. Default for me is 10 minutes. That seems very close when I'm in the flow, because whenever the autosave does come up, it'll give you a little notification down here, your warning in seconds. It'll tell you 10 seconds, hey, I'm about to autosave, and then it goes ahead and saves everything. I'm going to change mine up to 15 minutes, just to give me that extra 5-minute buffer. Then down here under the saving method, you can also change if you just want it to backup and restore, or backup and overwrite your existing files. Next, we're going to talk about possibly changing your theme and the appearance of the editor as well. So once again, once we're under Editor Preferences, under General, click on Appearance, and it'll be right here at the top. The active theme right now is going to be dark, and that is the only pre-installed theme that the engine comes with. But if you prefer a different color theme, you can change the appearance of the editor, which can be helpful to stay focused. It's also useful if you happen to have a color blindness, as there are several settings built in to accommodate that. Scroll down, and then here you have the color vision deficiency, so you can just see if one of those fits in for you. And if not, you can always just go through and change the viewport, as well as any other settings that you have to best accommodate your visual preferences of the engine and the editor. Next, I want to touch on the keyboard shortcuts, because if you find yourself repeating some options several times, you might want to consider adding a keyboard shortcut for it. Or perhaps you would like for an existing keyboard shortcut to be different. So under the General, find keyboard shortcuts, and then you will find just about every action you can think of could use a different kind of shortcut. For me, I'm already used to the engine now, the way it has been with its default settings, so I'm just going to leave everything as it is. If there's anything that you would like to change, feel free to change it. And that's it. You're all set up and optimized, ready to develop the next big hit game or jaw-dropping visual masterpiece. Make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing for more Unreal Engine and game dev content. We'd also love to hear what got you started on this journey. In our next video, we'll cover the basics of the engine layout and understanding the user interface. Remember, the only limit is your own imagination. Until next time, keep coding, keep designing, and most importantly, keep playing.